Today we speak about a very wise philosopher who has a very strong connection to the spirit, to his religion. And today we introduce Emmanuel Levinas. Now, Emmanuel Levinas lived between 1905 and passed away in 1995. Levinas had a strong Jewish background, and this influenced much of what he thought. Now, Western philosophical tradition puts difference and diversity aside and focuses on an all-encompassing unity. We see that in the United States. We're American. We're in this together. We hear that often. A lot of times, although we respect diversity and we focus on this all-encompassing unity. Maybe that goes back all the way to coming and the pioneers who started North America. They had to work together. They had to work together to make it work. So this philosophical tradition from the Western side of things was this all-encompassing unity. But yet for Emmanuel Levinas, coming from a Jewish background, the Hebrew tradition glorified in the singularity. And the singularity gives each thing its identity. We're all unique. We're all individual people. Sometimes when you look out into space and you go out from that large view and you zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, you get to Earth and you zoom in and here you are, wherever you're sitting watching this video right now. There'll never be another one of you. The singularity gives us this very unique identity. Now, Levinas's philosophy as a whole is an ethical philosophy. Like Aristotle and Kant, Levinas is in search of the good or the happiness. We know that Immanuel Kant was in search of the good, and Aristotle was looking for happiness, but they were almost using those words in sync with each other. But Levinas, he speaks about looking for the good, but it's a capital G. Whenever we see the writing of Levinas and it's the good, it's a capital G, which means that it's a noun. And what does the good, capital G? Well, for us, that would be God. God. Whenever we talk about God in different names, we capitalize it out of that respect for God. So the good is capitalized for Levinas, and the good is interested not in what is common amongst things, but what is uniquely unique about each person or thing, the singularity. Levinas calls these unique things and persons traces, traces of the good. Now, sometimes we hear in the religious communities, you'll hear people say that God is in you. And for my limited understanding of Jewish traditions is they believe that God was in us, but has moved on, moving into the future for us to find. But the traces of God are inside of us. So Levinas calling these unique things about each of us traces of the good has a connection to that Jewish culture that he was raised in. So a trace says that God was there, but is no longer there. God has moved ahead. But once again, that singularity, that uniqueness to all of us is so special. Now, Levinas says that we experience the traces of people in the face of others. I find that when you engage, when you truly look at another person, it's hard to deny that person of who they are. It's a very vulnerable thing to do, to stare at someone's face. Actually, I would challenge you, obviously we're watching a video, but if you have a brother or sister or mom or dad, I challenge you to have a staring competition. Like they're hard to do. It's hard to stare at the face of another person. And what Levinas would say is when you stare at another person, the traces of good are so evident, and the eyes are the most naked part of the body, and the eyes are the window to the soul. So in another's eyes, we make immediate direct contact. So When you make eye-to-eye contact with someone, that other person no longer just becomes an object that is in your physical surroundings. That person becomes the other. In this person's look, the other calls you not to reduce his face to being the same as any other face. The face is such a powerful a mechanism of calling us to the good. We see this whether it be there's a reason why executioning squads, the person is always turned away with their head not facing you. To see someone's face in that moment, it's hard to deny their life when you're making face-to-face contact. We see it also in advertisements when charities who do great work are looking for people to donate money. It's a cup of coffee a day. When they're showing people in these marginalized situations in third world countries, they always focus in on the face of the people because it's hard to deny the other. When you look at someone's face, the face itself becomes ethical. I'd like to share with you a video about just how powerful making face-to-face contact is. Often we see when people are fighting, moms and dads, even me and my wife. When me and my wife are fighting, a lot of times we can't look at each other, or when we're angry with each other, we don't want to look at each other. And sometimes when we're fighting, we're like, look at me, look at me. But when you're saying, look at me with this anger and passion into your heart, what you're saying is, look at me, see me. I want you to see the traces of good. Treat me like a human. Don't treat me like any other schmuck in your life. Treat me like your wife. Treat me like your husband. So sometimes we call for eye contact, and then when we're angry and we can't talk, we don't look at each other. We keep our eyes away. We can tell a lot sometimes on how these interactions happen. And so the video I want to show you is actually an artist who at the Modern Museum of Art did a very like a live art show where she sat at a chair, and anyone at the art museum could come and sit on a chair opposing her, and you would just stare at each other for 1 minute. But what she didn't know was an ex-husband of hers who they had a relationship, and you can only imagine there was love there, but that love drifted apart. Their relationship had drifted apart. He comes to the art show and sits down. They haven't seen each other for years, and there's a lot of complex emotions, right? There's the love that they shared, and then the anger that kind of broke apart their relationship. And it's very powerful to see what happens when he sits down across from her. Truly, to deny the other is really hard when you look at each other, and we can see the breakdown in this video. I hope you enjoy.
There she was like a picture. There she was just the same. There she was, he just had to know that she had forgot his name. Oolay, oolay, oh. Thinking back to the last time on the wall as they turned away. Walking back, was it just a trick, or did he hear her say, oolay, oolay, oh. Tried his best to forget her, tried his best to just keep his stride, kept his word, but he knows he heard, oolay, oolay, oh, oolay, oolay, oh. There she was like a picture, there she was just the same. There she was, he just had to know she had not forgot his name. Oolay, oolay, oh. Oolay, oolay, oh.
It's truly a wonderful video showing how the face calls us to see the other. The face is a no. The face is a no, a refusal to let you reduce the face or deny the face in its uniqueness. It's hard to discriminate against people when you see their face, you see their eyes, you see the traces of good in their lives. Levinas refers to the book of Deuteronomy in chapter 10, verse 18, and the Israelites are told to love the stranger as themselves because the Lord watches over the stranger. Who is the stranger? Who is the other? Who is the person that we are ethically called to if we just looked them and saw their face? The stranger is the one whose very existence is threatened, the one with economic instability, one who is socially marginalized, the one without rights. At the point of the neighbor, the other, the face itself becomes ethical. The face demands that you recognize it and provide it hospitality. Levinas says, the being that expresses itself imposes itself, but does so precisely by appealing to me with its destitution and nudity, its hunger, without being able to be deaf to that appeal. Thus, in expression, the being that imposes itself does not limit, but promotes my freedom by arousing my goodness. When someone is asking you to see them, wanting you to see them, they're appealing with their hunger to be treated as the other. And that expression, that imposing of someone asking to be seen, it doesn't limit, but promotes our own personal freedom by arousing the goodness in our own hearts. The face suggests that there's another order of existence, the order of an incredible good calling us to be responsible to the poor, to the marginalized, to those who want to be seen. Here, the self-centered is called into question. Here, the other rules. It's not about you, it's about the other. It's a humble ruling, revealing itself as if it was afraid to speak. This is how the divine speaks to us, as a humble God who refuses to use power. When we look at our Judean Christian backgrounds, we have a humble God who refuses to use power. And God for Levinas is this humble and vulnerable God. Goodness, capital G goodness, the infinite one, God, translates into the responsibility for the other. It becomes our ethics in Levinas's eyes, the face, the eyes, looking to the other. We see the goodness. And I guess the question becomes, how far should this responsibility, this generosity go? Well, I'll have to say, goodness sets no limit. There is no limit to seeing our neighbor, to seeing the goodness in all that's around us and being ethically called to respond to that. Levinas, interesting guy. Another point of view for us to dive into when we're in this course in search of the good. I hope you enjoyed.